Most people think Rihanna's story ends with the music. A girl from Barbados, 11 #1 hits, a voice that defined a decade, and then silence. No album, no tour, no Grammy acceptance speech, just quiet. But here's the thing nobody's really talking about. That silence? That's when she got rich. I mean generational, never work again, build an empire from a retreat in Calabasas rich. And while the world kept waiting for R9, she kept stacking. Rihanna's empire extends well beyond music into beauty and fashion. And today, we're stepping inside her Calabasas retreat to see exactly how business success translates into private life, what it looks like, what it costs, and what it actually means to build quiet wealth at the highest level. Because this isn't just a house tour, this is a masterclass. Let's get into it. Before the retreat, you have to understand the empire first. You can't look at where Rihanna lives without first understanding how she can afford to live there. And I don't mean that in a surface-level way. I mean you need to feel the weight of what she built, because it's genuinely staggering. In 2017, Rihanna launched Fenty Beauty, not a celebrity fragrance, not a lipstick line tucked inside someone else's brand. A full cosmetic company co-owned with LVMH, the luxury conglomerate that also owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Tiffany. That co-ownership detail is everything. She didn't license her name. She didn't take a check and a royalty. She took equity. By 2023, Fenty Beauty was valued at somewhere north of $2.8 billion. Forbes named her a billionaire. And not the kind of celebrity billionaire who got there through a 9-figure inheritance. She built it through a beauty brand that launched with 40 shades of foundation when the industry average was barely half that. That foundation range wasn't just socially conscious, it was a market disruption. She identified a gap that billion-dollar companies had ignored for decades, women with deeper skin tones, and she filled it. First-year revenue hit $100 million in 40 days. 40 days. Then came SavageXFenty, her lingerie company, which hit a $1 billion valuation in 2021 after a Series D funding round. Then came the Fenty fashion house under LVMH, which was actually put on pause but represented the first new luxury fashion house that iconic group had launched in over 30 years. Even paused, even shelved, that partnership signals something. It signals that LVMH looked at Rihanna Fenty and said she's worth building with. All of that empire. Built during the years, the world was asking, where's the album? The album was always a distraction. The business was the point. Calabasas. Why this zip code says everything. Now, Calabasas. If you know the name, you probably associate it with a very specific kind of celebrity. The Kardashians, Kanye, Will Smith. Drake has been there. The Osbournes. It's become shorthand for a particular tier of Los Angeles wealth. Not Hollywood Hills flash. Not Malibu surfer cool, but something more guarded. Calabasas sits about 30 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles. It's gated. It's quiet. The streets are wide. The trees are tall. And there are no paparazzi camped outside your driveway because the driveways are so far set back from the road that a zoom lens is basically useless. That's not an accident. This is a neighborhood designed for people who have transcended public life, not retired from it. Transcended it. You still have a brand, you still have a business. You just don't live inside the chaos anymore. For Rihanna, Calabasas is a strategic choice. After years of Barbados, New York, London, and the constant orbit of the fashion and music world, this is where she chose to settle. Not because it's the most glamorous option, but because it offers something her level of fame almost never gets: actual privacy. Property values in Calabasas routinely exceed $10 million for the premium gated communities. The guard-gated neighborhoods like the Oaks can push 30, 40, even 50 million. And that's not just real estate, that's infrastructure for a private life. The retreat itself, what we know. Now let's talk about the property. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky, her partner and father of her 2 sons, have been tied to multiple properties in the Los Angeles area, and the Calabasas retreat represents one layer of a multi-property life that includes residences across continents. The Calabasas home is reported to sit on a significant lot, multiple acres with the kind of square footage that stops being a house and starts being a compound. We're talking something in the range of 10,000 to 15,000 square feet based on comparable estates in the area. The design philosophy, according to people familiar with the property, leans into what designers call organic luxury. That means warm stone, exposed wood, high ceilings with natural light, and a color palette pulled from earth tones rather than the cold grays and whites of the minimalist wave that dominated celebrity interiors for a decade. Think, a home that feels lived in even when it's immaculate. A home where billion-dollar taste doesn't feel cold. There's reportedly a full wellness wing, not just a gym, but a dedicated space built around recovery, breathwork, and movement. Rihanna has spoken openly about how motherhood shifted her relationship with her body and her rest. This home reflects that. It's not built for parties. It's built for longevity. The outdoor space is where the compound really stretches out. Multiple entertaining areas, a pool configuration that was reportedly custom designed to give sightlines from the main living space, and garden landscaping that blurs the line between curated nature and wild terrain. There's also a dedicated space for the children. Rihanna and Rocky have two boys, Riza Athelston Mayers, born in 2022, and Riot Rose Mayers, born in 2023, and the design choices around that space reportedly prioritize tactile play, natural materials, and outdoor access. Not a playroom full of plastic, a childhood environment. That distinction matters because it tells you how she thinks. ASAP Rocky Rakim, the creative partner nobody fully accounts for. Let's talk about Rocky for a second, because when people cover Rihanna's world, they often write Rocky into the margins. And that's genuinely underestimating him. ASAP Rocky Rakim, Athelston Mayers, is not just a rapper with a famous girlfriend. He's one of the most influential visual artists of his generation. His relationship with fashion, design, and aesthetics is documented and deep. The man wore a quilt to the Met Gala. He's a Gu's creative director. He curated his own IKEA collection. He thinks about space, texture, and presentation the way most people think about playlists. Which means the Calabasas retreat isn't just Rihanna's vision, it's a collaboration. Two people with elite visual intelligence designing a home that reflects how they actually want to live. That's rare. Most celebrity homes are one person's taste imposed on a shared life. This is different. This is intentional, and that intention extends to how they've discussed raising their children. In interviews carefully given, rarely granted, both have spoken about wanting their boys to grow up grounded, connected to Caribbean roots, connected to Black American roots. In a home, not a showpiece, that grounding is written into the design of the retreat, and you can feel it even from the outside. The business infrastructure hidden in plain sight. Here's something that doesn't make the headlines, but absolutely should. Rihanna's homes are not just homes. They are operational. Fenty Beauty is a global brand. SavageXFenty ships worldwide. She has ongoing collaborations, licensing deals, and investment positions that require real-time attention. Her team, a full executive structure, not a management assistant, operates around her, and that means her home needs to function like a headquarters. The Calabasas retreat reportedly has a dedicated office wing, not a home office, a wing. Full conference capability, production space for content review, and connectivity infrastructure that would embarrass most mid-size companies. Think about what that means. On any given Tuesday, Rihanna might be feeding her kids breakfast, doing a product review call with her Fenty team in London, signing off on a SavageXFenty campaign shot, and then sitting down for a quiet dinner. All without leaving the property, all without a commute, a camera, or a press moment. That's what quiet wealth actually looks like. It's not a yacht in Monaco, though she has access to those too. It's the ability to run a billion-dollar operation from a space that also feels like home. Her net worth as of 2024 sits somewhere between $1.4 and $1.7 billion. Depending on the valuation methodology used for Fenty Beauty and SavageXFenty, that number is not in stocks. It's not in touring. It's in ownership, product ownership, equity positions. Revenue-generating intellectual property. The house is a reflection of that structure. When your wealth is stable, when it compounds while you sleep, you don't need to perform it. You just need to live inside it. What quiet wealth really means and why Rihanna embodies it. Let me slow down here for a second. Because quiet wealth is a concept that gets thrown around, but it deserves a real definition. Loud wealth is performative. It's the watch collection filmed for YouTube. It's the car reveal. It's the private jet post. It's wealth that needs validation from an audience to feel real. Quiet wealth is structural. It's the equity stake, the back-end deal, the royalty stream, the property that appreciates while you're not watching. It's wealth that doesn't need your attention to grow. Rihanna has both. She has the profile, the visibility, the aspirational brand, but the engine of her wealth is quiet. Most people couldn't name her CFO, her investment portfolio, or the specific ownership structure of SavageXFenty's most recent funding round. And that's by design. She became a billionaire without a headline moment. There was no IPO, no big announcement. Just compounding, year over year, behind a business that was built to last. The Calabasas retreat is the physical expression of that philosophy. It's not a statement. It's a result. And here's what makes her story genuinely different from most of the celebrity-turned-mogul narratives you'll find. She didn't chase legacy product. She didn't put her name on a vodka or a headphone line. She built from inside an underserved market with a product that had real utility, and she retained the equity that made the growth meaningful. That's not celebrity branding. That's entrepreneurship, motherhood, privacy, and the choice to step back. We can't talk about this chapter of Rihanna's life without talking about what she walked away from to build it. Between 2017 and now, Rihanna has given exactly 0 studio albums. For an artist of her caliber, someone who wrote the soundtrack to at least 2 generations, that silence is loud. And it's been misread by a lot of people as creative stagnation, or fear, or distraction. But look at what happened in that time. Fenty Beauty launched and became a billion-dollar brand. SavageXFenty scaled to a unicorn valuation. She became a mother, twice. She bought and sold multiple properties across Los Angeles and beyond. She headlined the Super Bowl halftime show while pregnant, mind you, and reminded everyone who hadn't forgotten just how dominant she is when she chooses to show up. The Super Bowl performance in particular was a statement, not just musically but in terms of legacy positioning. She didn't need the check. The NFL reportedly doesn't pay performing artists for the halftime show. She did it for the cultural moment, on her own terms, with her own aesthetic, while carrying her second child. That's someone who is entirely in control of their own narrative. And the retreat in Calabasas is where that narrative is written, away from the tabloids, away from the noise. Inside a home designed around family, function, and longevity. People forget that Rihanna is only in her mid-30s. She has been famous since she was 17. That's close to 20 years of relentless public life, and she has navigated all of it to arrive here. Billionaire, mother, partner, and CEO of her own story. The quiet wasn't withdrawal. It was strategy, what the property portfolio tells us. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the full real estate picture. Rihanna is not a one-home person. At various points, she has maintained residences in Los Angeles, New York, London, and Barbados. Her ties to Barbados are both personal and operational. She holds an official role as an ambassador for the island and has invested meaningfully in its cultural ecosystem. The Los Angeles properties, Calabasas being one. Node tell a specific story about how she thinks about space. Each property has a different function. Some are more social, designed for hosting and entertaining. Some are more private, designed for recovery and family. The Calabasas retreat sits in the latter category. That multi-property structure is itself a form of quiet wealth. You're not doubling down on one asset. You're distributing your living infrastructure across multiple locations, each appreciating, each serving a different purpose in your life. Real estate at this level isn't just a place to live. It's a hedge. It's a store of value. It's a physical portfolio that moves differently from the stock market, from a business valuation, from a licensing deal. It's diversification but built into your daily life. Most people accumulate wealth and then figure out where to put it. Rihanna's structure suggests she's thought about this differently from the beginning, treating real estate not as a luxury afterthought, but as an integral part of how wealth compounds over time. The legacy play, what she's actually building. Let's talk about where this is all headed, because right now, Rihanna is in a specific chapter, private, family-focused, operationally productive without being publicly visible. But that's not a permanent state, it's a phase. And if you know how to read the signs, the next chapter is already being set up. Fenty Beauty has been expanding into skincare and body care, growing the product footprint without requiring her daily involvement. SavageXFenty has iterated its retail strategy, opening physical locations and refining its subscription model. There are reports, never confirmed, of music finally nearing completion. And the cultural appetite for a Rihanna album in 2025 or 2026 is so enormous that whenever it drops, it will function not just as music, but as a brand activation of historic proportions. She's not dormant, she's loading. Think about what that actually means in practice. Every quarter that passes without a public appearance is a quarter where the Fenty ecosystem quietly generates revenue. Every product extension, a new serum, a new foundation undertone, a new SavageXFenty campaign builds the brand without demanding her physical presence. She's created something that most artists never manage to pull off, a commercial engine that runs independently of her celebrity, and that changes the math on everything. When she decides to come back, really come back, she won't be stepping back into the industry as a returning artist, trying to recapture relevance. She'll be arriving as an owner, a CEO, someone who spent the quiet years building leverage, not losing it. The music, when it finally arrives, will hit differently because of everything that came before it. It won't just be an album. It will be a content event, a brand moment, a product launch cycle, and a cultural conversation all compressed into a single release. The infrastructure she's built means that one album could simultaneously move beauty product, drive SavageXFenty subscriptions, and anchor a world tour that operates at a scale most artists couldn't logistically support. That's the quiet wealth endgame. Not just having money, having options. Having the ability to move when you choose, at the scale you choose, on the terms you've already arranged. And when she re-enters the public conversation at full volume with music, with a global tour, with product launches timed to the cycle, she will do so from a position that no version of her has ever been in before. She will be a billionaire artist mogul, with equity in everything she touches, with 2 kids and a partner, with a decade of compound growth behind her, and a home in Calabasas that she doesn't have to perform for anyone. Most careers peak and then decline. Rihanna's has peaked, gone quiet, and is now sitting on a compressed spring that hasn't released yet. When it does, and it will, the world is going to remember why it ever loved her in the first place, and she'll already be 10 moves ahead. So, what's the takeaway here? Rihanna's moves from the Fenty Beauty equity stake to the SavageXFenty funding rounds to the compound in Calabasas show exactly how product ownership builds quiet power. She didn't just make money. She built infrastructure. Infrastructure that generates revenue, appreciates in value, and requires less of her visible attention over time. That's the model. That's the blueprint. And it started with a foundation range, 40 shades, a market nobody else was serving. A product she believed in enough to own, not just endorse. If this kind of story resonates with you, brand to business, business to real estate, public fame to private empire, I want to know who you'd like us to cover next. Drop a name below. Seriously, the comment section is where these videos get shaped. Someone down there is going to give us the next story, and I want it to be you. If you want more brand to real estate stories, drop a name below. We'll see you in the next one.